Welcome to Creative Conversations, a space where no topic is off limit and creativity isn't just expressed, it's explored. This is the conversation you didn't know you needed. And here we dive beneath the surface of mundane talk to get to the heart of the matter. We're your hosts, Garrick and Militia, and we're excited that you have joined us today. So pull up a seat and make yourself at home and be prepared to be challenged, inspired, and ignited to something real and refreshing. This is not just a podcast, it's a doorway to deeper thinking, honest stories, and fearless imagination. This is Creative Conversations. Let's get to it. All right, welcome, everyone. This is Creative Conversations. I'm your host, Garrick, and this is your host.
Male.
Give me some more energy. No, delayed mail. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right, so we are here today. We're very excited to be with you, and we want you to buckle your seatbelts because we have something to discuss, and we're going to get into it. And we want you to stay with us, go along with us in this journey as we talk about something that's not necessarily taboo, but it's something that's happening in in a lot of people's lives, and sometimes these types of decisions can be very I don't want to say traumatic,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, but it can cause disruption. I think that's a more
That's
appropriate
fair.
word. It can cause disruptions in some relationships, definitely certain statuses. So, but we want to get as entrenched as we need to be in this discussion. And you might be asking, well, what the hell y'all gonna talk about? Um, I'm gonna let Mel kick this off in terms of regulating the pathway for the feminine energy to chart this course. And as we understand in the myotical way, we like to bring balance into this discussion that we're going to have. And also, definitely going to want your input and participation. And so, just a few housekeeping rules. Hey, we want you to uh, hit the like button. We want you to hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, most importantly, because when we upload this to YouTube, to our channel, we want you all to participate and give us feedback, give us your opinions, give us, your perspectives on this heavily debated, discussed topic. So, without further ado, kick us off and take us away, Mel.
All right. Let's begin. Deconstruction. The rethinking, reimagining, remaining, and relocating from religion. We want to thank you for joining us as we begin the conversation about how many individuals have begun to question their beliefs, their practices, and the systems that they were raised in or once chose. It's not about attacking your faith, but it's about untangling what feels imposed, harmful, or misaligned with your true self. The first thing is that we need to do, or that we should be doing, is honor the need to question the
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, give yourself permission to question the beliefs, the teaching, the traditions, and the authorities. Realize that doubt is not a betrayal, it's often the start of spiritual clarity. Be honest. What beliefs felt more like fear than truth? Which ones felt forced or performed? Were you performing, or did it make you feel disempowered? Is this something that I truly believe? Or was I taught to fear what would happen if I didn't do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get started and begin to unpack all of this, Garrick is going to share some key terms with us that we will be using during this conversation. And we want to make sure everyone understands what these key terms are. We're not just going to assume that you automatically know.
Correct.
All right,
Correct.
you kick it off, Garrick.
All right. So we are, if you didn't catch it, we're talking about deconstruction. More importantly, or more specifically, we're talking about deconstructing from religion. And the process, or that particular or specific journey of undoing, and as Mel stated, we're going to go through some terminologies that we feel is pertinent to this discussion, or at least to give us a foundation or platform or a springboard
Mm-hmm.
to launch into this discussion, so you have some familiarity with the terms of what we're talking about, because as Mel stated, we don't want to assume that you know everyone knows what we're referencing when we use the term deconstruction, which I'm sure by now in 2025 you've heard this term, and there are quite a few, or a large number of people who are, as we coined it a little bit, who are rethinking, who are reimagining, who are remaining, or even therefore relocating from religion. So either you find yourself in one of those four categories, to give some demarcation as to where you are in that process. And and for some, and as she stated, this is not an attack on religion, but it's to give space to, and to give the grace for individuals who are, because the truth be told, a lot of people are not allowed to question
Right.
their religion, question the Bible, question the Quran, question the Torah, or of the spiritual text, in which I just kind of found out myself that when we say the three main religions, we include Judaism, which really the three main religions are Christianity, Islam, and um, Hinduism.
Yeah.
Those are the three major ones. And regardless of what lane you find yourself in, or your um, steeple or staple of belief, there are individuals who are deciding to move away from those um, indoctrinations, calling it for what it is. And it's just that, those indoctrinations. And
Mm-hmm.
as you stated, we do want to point out some key terms. So just kind of indulge us, and like I stated in the opening, this is a journey.
Right.
This is a journey. So, and I know it may seem like we just popped up on you all, like, wait a minute, who are these people? We'll discuss that in some other episodes and kind of give you actually disclosure. We do have a pilot. We just didn't put it out there yet that kind of gets into, who
Right.
we are and what what we're about and so forth and so on.
We didn't like it, so
Yeah,
you all
we was
probably
like,
won't even see that.
yeah,
So,
that won't see the light of day. So I don't know. You may see a little touch of it in our intro once this uploads, but outside of that, nah, we just like we gonna scratch that.
yeah,
So
no.
so, but look at this as we talk about deconstruction and that very term itself, it means to, or it is a taking to pieces, literally taking to pieces. So even that in and of itself is not a one and done
No.
circumstance because if you have been immersed or ensconced, embedded, entrenched in any reformation as a sort, then to come out of it isn't just something that you can just do on a whim.
No.
It is an untangling. It literally is a taking to pieces. So there may be some areas that you that you can kind of slice through rather quickly, and then there's going to be other areas where it may take some time to kind of weave or untangle yourself from those ideas, because you'll be surprised how much all of that is embedded in your consciousness, and even in some aspects your decision making, where you still have vestiges of those beliefs, and it kind of governs some of the things that you do. And let me throw this in, because a lot of times people who choose to do this um are often castigated, or are often charged with, I'll say it that way, are often charged with the idea that the only reason why they're doing that is because they want to, imbibe in sin, or, you know, to enjoy, certain lustful or pleasurable or fleshly pleasures. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case in most instances. I'll say that. Not to say that that's not for some people, they want to do whatever they want to do, but you'll come to find that there are individuals who decided to step away, remove themselves from the religious equation altogether, because they they are they are literally uh, panning out their own lives.
Right.
They didn't. They're not. It's not a matter of, ooh, I'm gonna drink it up. No, it's not even about that.
It's not even about that.
It's they gonna sex it up. It ain't even about that.
People doing that in the church. You don't need to leave the church to do that, but that's a whole different
Hello,
episode, right?
hello.
Well, I want to piggyback off something you said when you were talking about the word deconstruction, and it's like taking stuff a piece. I look at that as the different stuff that you have done, that you are taking it piece by piece, and you're taking that piece and you're examining that you're examining each piece.
Right, 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 right. No, continue, because
Oh, okay.
continue, because that's an excellent
So,
point.
especially me personally being in something, being a part of religion almost 30 years, just like you said, it's not okay. I decided this Monday, and then Tuesday, everything is done away.
Right, right.
No, and that is even walking away. There are still some things within that deconstruction where I'm taking things piece by piece. I'm taking this piece of the puzzle, if you will, and I'm examining it. Does this still serve me? Is this still
Right,
good
right,
for me?
right.
And if it's yes, okay, this will remain. And if it's no, then I'm gonna discard that.
Right.
So just like you said, to reiterate that, deconstruction does not mean like you take your arm and it's one full swoop, everything is flung off the table. No, everything that was on that table, you're looking at each piece and you're re-examining it to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the questions come in. Well, why do I believe this?
Mm-hmm.
And is this even true?
Mm-hmm.
And then you may wind up going into some deep research on that one question can really kind of have you going down a rabbit hole. It depends.
It can.
And a rabbit hole does not necessarily have to be a negative connotation. But you can ask that one question and you can get 10 other questions out of that.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that and you just begin to look at that and see if this is good for you. And also too, just like you said earlier, we were not allowed, the thing was, oh, don't question God.
Right.
Why can't I? Why couldn't I? Or was it wasn't questioning God. You all didn't want us, or they didn't want us asking questions that they could not answer. Is that why
That
they didn't
part.
want to be questioned?
That part. And I think it may be more so on that end.
Right. So it was never about, because let's just go with the church thing for a minute. Okay, God was my father. Why can't a child question their father? Why can't a child question their mother? Why can't they? Why can't they? Now, me and you, we dating ourselves, but I don't care. I don't care about people knowing my age. We grew up in the era where it was like we couldn't question that either, because my mother was, because I said so, because I was a rebellious child.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna question if it don't make no sense to me, just because you're the parent or you have this title. If it don't make no sense to me,
Right.
I'm gonna question it. And her response was because I said so. You still ain't respond.
Exactly.
So why can't I? That's how I learn. Tell me something, just oh, go do this. Why? Because I said so. Who said you was right? And why am I doing this? So I believe that a lot of that, just like we said, was because there were a lot of common sense questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a whole nother thing. Being in Christianity, you can't have common sense. Because if you do, you are gonna question, and people in authority is gonna look at you like you're crazy, or you questioning God. No, I'm not questioning God.
Right.
So that's like we said, it's a whole lot that we will be unpacking. This is episode 1.
Episode 1.
Episode 1. So it's a lot that we will be unpacking, and we're not gonna try and sit and unpack it now in the first episode. So we may say some things that may not get addressed right now, but it will be addressed as we continue, because I believe we're gonna be on this series for a minute.
This is
We're not rushing.
Yeah, this is a marathon,
Right.
with this conversation. And just within all of what you stated, there there are so many other layers to the onion that has to be peeled from that in and of itself, because it can't just limit it to that conversation, or you just can't limit it to that area of the conversation, I should say, because it's so nuanced in the way the way it should be approached in the discussion, because I mean, it like we stated, this is something that doesn't happen overnight. You know, rest assured, most people you talk to, they're going to be able to say, no, this is what led me up to that. And trust me, we're going to talk about that. I think in today's conversation, we're going to discuss, you know, that area of, what led you down this road, or how did you end up here? So, but to but I wanted to look at the other terms that we want to talk about. Well, not necessarily talk about, but just kind of give you an overlay. So we define deconstructing, which is a taking to pieces, which really it is in view to reconstruct inevitably.
Mhm.
So because you're going to dismantle that in order to put something else back together and in hopes to give a redefinition, if you will, to um I'm gonna yank these earbuds out because they keep sliding out my ear. Uh, um, but but to give you a snapshot of what is in view to where you're going, because no one is that I'm aware of who's ever gone through this process of deconstructing from religion or um, some dogma, if you will, just was just left out there in limbo. And if so, the antithesis of this is not a is not from the perspective as a replacement piece.
Right.
That's the other side of this, where some people think, well, you're just doing that just to replace it with something else. No, no. I mean, in some aspects, you don't do this, and if I can say it this way, at our ages, you know what I'm saying? You know, you know, and I'm not saying that I may look. Uh, I just turned 54 the other Sunday, so I'm still young. I just, you know, white it out in some areas. So, but, um, but you don't do this at midstream per se. But to me, there's no way you can deny areas of truth and then just for the sake of a faith or belief posture maintain that when you're presented with new information.
Mhm.
You have to at least consider it. You have to at least give it an opportunity, or as we used to say back in the day, you know you eat the meat and throw out the bones.
Right.
Well, we done found a lot of bones and what we done came out of, and yeah, and have found a lot of steak
Yeah.
in what we've been introduced into. So we have deconstructing, a taking to pieces. We part of the topic of the discussion is the person who's rethinking, who's reimagining, who's remaining, meaning that they're staying put regardless. But they may be going through some things that they are questioning themselves, but they don't want to totally remove themselves from their church or religious experience or mosque experience or temple experience or what have you. Then there is the reimagining, then there's the relocating, and then there is the um did I miss one? Rethinking, reimagining, remaining. Okay, yeah, I
Mhm.
covered it. And relocating.
Mhm.
Those individuals are like, no, I'm out. I don't believe this no more.
Yeah.
Uh, for some, it's and not, for them, they're angered, they're embattled, they're upset. I mean, they are totally pissed
Yeah.
at the notion that they have found themselves immersed in this for X amount of number of years, and for them feel like they've been hoodwinked, they've been bamboozled, they've been led astray, they've been run amok, and then for them to get here and for them to feel as if they've been lied to. All
Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
So to rethink is to think again. So you have a class of individuals who are looking at their religious experience, their church experience, their temple, their mosque experience, and they're rethinking this. And a lot of that comes from, and we won't get into it in this episode, because that's going to just take us down. Now that will take us down a rabbit hole. Let me get rid of these. That'll take us down a rabbit hole that we don't need to go down in this episode.
Right.
But the reason why some of them are rethinking is because of the things that are emerging now
Mhm.
out of what scholars are making available
Right.
to the religious, to the sacred text, and what's being and what your average person has access to now.
Right.
So and they are rethinking it because they're reading certain passages now and they're like, wait a minute. But then when they go over here and they read primarily what's maybe from an older text, it doesn't quite say what the later versions are saying. And let's be honest. That be the case, then that means that changes the entire meaning of a particular text or sect of scripture. So you have the people who are rethinking. They're thinking again. They're reconsidering afresh, um, and they are in a transitive sense are are kind of rethinking to or reimagining. So those can kind of funnel down the same lane
Right.
because you do have those groups of individuals and I kind of look at it just kind of breaking it down frame by frame. So you have a person who's rethinking, and once a person reimagines what they're rethinking, you start to see that reimagination in their behavior,
Mm-hmm.
how they are now living out this newfound, if you want to call it that, idea and concept. So then you have the remaining, and that's kind of self-explanatory.
Right.
Those individuals is like, I don't care what you tell me. I don't care what's out there.
They
What's
don't care what new information is
they don't.
given. It's like, this is it. I'm flat footed. This what I'm doing.
Hmm.
I will not be moved.
Yes, they will not be moved. So and let me add this to even what Mel said at the beginning of the offset, that this is not an attempt to convert a person
Mm-mm.
to a position of where we are, but individuals should be able to have the latitude to question, and if what they now determine does not more or less align with their core
Right.
uh, beliefs, then they should be able to have the opportunity to change the direction.
They have every right. Maybe something that worked for you back in 1980, 1990, it's not working today.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have a right to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
We do. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not going to elongate this, okay? Your story may be a little bit longer than mine. This is story time, y'all.
Story time. Well, I want to make sure that we cover that because that we covered all the bases. Oh, let me say this real quick before you jump into that. And then the term religion, because that's where people are deconstructing from. And religion, whether it is Christianity, whether it is Islam, whether it is Buddhism, Hinduism, regardless, people are rethinking, reimagining, and that those forms of religion and remember, religion in and of itself, its origin has to do with to bind.
Mm.
The term religion, religare, uh, it's religare. That's the noun um, of action, which is to go through again, and then you have religare, ARE, opposed to ERE, and that has more to do with to bind fast. Thank you for joining us on this journey of creation, reflection, and discovery. As we close today's conversation, it is our hope that you carry the light of inspiration and the spirit of creativity with you, wherever your path leads. Until next time, stay connected and aligned with your purpose, and keep creating. This has been Creative Conversations.